Hello and welcome. I am Kelly Hearn, and today we are talking all about tough conversations with your peers. Again, I am Kelly Hearn with Transitional Leadership, the channel where we help individuals and businesses implement leadership and career skill development to foster a greater impact. So if that's you, you are in the right place, my friend. All right, like I said, today we are talking all about those tough conversations with your peers. And honestly, I go into the how and what you want to do when you're in those tough conversations in the blog. So check the show notes to find the link to the blog so you can learn all of the how and the what for this episode. But in this video, we're talking about why. And that's a particularly important aspect to tough conversations because there's a really good argument for why not. It is very uncomfortable to have those crucial conversations with your peers or with others that are about the same level with you. So previously we had talked about coaching up and sharing that feedback with your boss. And this is unique because we are talking about those conversations with folks that are on the same level as you. So in theory, you would think that would be easier than talking to your boss, right? You'd think it would be easier to give that tough feedback, to have that hard conversation, either about quality of work or a deadline or something along those lines with a peer than it is with your direct supervisor. But the truth of the matter is, there's oftentimes more of an ego dynamic with those peers. And so it can be even more challenging to have those conversations with them than it is even with someone who's above you. So I want to spend some time just dissecting why you would even bother with this, why you would have those conversations. And I'm going to go at it from two different perspectives. One, purely selfish, because let's be honest, that's what motivates us to do a lot of things, right? What's in it for me? What is important to me? Why would I want to do this? And then the other side of that coin, it's also really helpful for the organization. It's really helpful for the team. It's really helpful for that person. And while it might be uncomfortable or sting a little bit in the moment, you're really doing them and the team and the organization as a whole a benefit by having that conversation. So today we're going to look at the why and we're going to look at it from both perspectives. So I'm going to start with you because, like I said, that's what we care about most, right? We don't always want to admit it, but we care about why something impacts us. So you really want to have those tough conversations with your peers for, I'm going to narrow it down to three reasons. There's probably a lot more, but the first one is it puts you in the driver's seat. So in the blog, like I referenced before, you can go into the show notes and click the link. I go into three different examples of very different situations where I had those tough conversations with my peers. And when you read them, when you read those examples, you'll see that it almost sounded like I was a very caring and compassionate boss in those situations. And I was not supervising any of those people. In some cases, they were direct peers of mine, as in we both reported to the same boss. And in other situations, they were kind of like adjacent peers. So we were roughly at the same level, but on different teams. And in all of them, I kind of come off as being the leader, as being the one in charge. And that's by design. So if you're the one who is willing to step up, to take lead, to address what needs to be addressed, you are the leader, even if it's unofficial, even if it's not your title, even if that person maybe is at a higher pay grade or something like that, you're still being the leader in that situation. So you get to call a few more of the shots. And so being in that driver's seat is really important and beneficial because you're not just being passive. You're not just letting the situation happen to you and being the victim on the other end of it. Piggybacking onto that, the second reason that you would want to do it for yourself is because it makes it so much more likely that you will get what you need out of that situation just by pure virtue of you asking for it or stating it to the person. So, for example, if you have a specific deadline on a project that you are working with a team on, and someone isn't holding up their end of the bargain, when you are the one who steps up and addresses the situation with them, you get to discuss that deadline as you need it to be. So maybe it's the drop dead due date, or maybe you express to them that you need their work done the week prior so that everybody has the chance to review and move forward with a little bit of a cushion. But you don't get to even assert that opinion if you're not the person to bring it up. If somebody else does it, who knows how they'll handle that situation? Or worse yet, if nobody does it, then your fear that they won't hit the deadline, that this peer of yours who's having a little bit of a struggle going on, the fear that they aren't going to hit the deadline might totally come to fruition. Or they might submit something right at the last possible second, and who knows what quality of work that's going to be too. So you get to insert what you want and what you need when you're the one who takes that step forward, when you're the one who actually addresses these crucial conversations. And then the third one, this is truly my favorite, is development. So you get to practice your skills and improve yourself as you're having these conversations. So you are practicing those leadership skills. You are practicing your influence, your communication, your project management, your performance management to some degree. You're doing all of those things as you're planning for having those conversations and then following up on them after the fact. So the fact that you get to put yourself in a purely leadership position to have those conversations and practice when you don't have all the skin in the game, let's be honest, you're not their boss. So it's not on you if they don't deliver. In some situations, it is. So I totally understand that. But the buck doesn't stop with you typically when it's a peer of yours. Typically, the buck stops with their boss. So you're getting all the practice in the world and getting to hone in your skills to make sure that you're ready when the buck does stop with you for pretty limited risk. So I say take those opportunities when you can get them. I also reference in the blog that this is a really good resume builder. So don't overlook these conversations when you're writing out your resume and your skills and your experiences and your expertise. If you were able to get a project back on track and meet the deadline or come in under budget or whatever the case may be, because of that critical conversation, include it. Absolutely. Write that down. All right. Okay. So let's stop being so self-absorbed now. Let's stop thinking about it from our perspective and let's talk about it from the organization perspective or from the team perspective, or honestly from that person's perspective. So I want to start with that person. We'll kind of branch out and get bigger as we go, but for that person, one of the examples I use in my blog is Jim. So Jim and I, quite honestly, just didn't really get along that well. We weren't best of friends while we were working together, and he kind of shirked some of his responsibilities. So I do feel as though it was a service to him to actually get him to be a little bit more self-aware. He wasn't trying to cause problems within the team. He wasn't trying to have projects fail or have expectations not be met. He really just didn't understand that he himself was having that level of impact on the two of us, the team, and the organization as a whole. So helping him to become more self-aware is a benefit overall. I also talk about someone that I was working with that I was really close with who didn't understand how intimidating they were. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But helping them to see that and giving them that self-awareness was truly a gift. If you've been following me for any length of time, you know that I say quite often that feedback is a gift. So this is an opportunity for you to give that gift to someone else. Now, as far as how it works with the team. So the second point here for looking, outside of ourselves and why we would want to have these tough conversations is that person is likely going to be easier to work with in the future. So whether that's the next time they work with you or the next time they work with somebody else, even if they, you know, their heart didn't grow 3 times like the Grinch from that conversation with you, even if it's not quite that sweet and whimsical, they will at least know that people aren't willing to put up with them slacking off or put up with them not putting in their full effort or not meeting the deadlines. Whatever that case may be, they will at the very least know that someone's going to hold them accountable for it. So it will make them more apt to work well with others in the next situation that they're in because you've held them accountable this time. So that's going to have a positive impact for every other person that works with them going forward. And the more often you and other people do this, it's going to have even a greater impact over time. And I think, honestly, if you reflect back yourself, there's probably been a time or two that you've been on the other side of that tough conversation. I know there has been for me. And those things do stick with you because, again, for the most part, we're all trying to do the right thing. It just doesn't always come out to the right result, right? Or we don't see the blind spot entirely. So they will be easier to work with for a variety of reasons if you give them that feedback and if you have that tough conversation in an objective, kind, and future focused way, which is what we get into in the blog. So go check that out. But they will be better apt to work with more people in the future. And then finally, and I feel like this one is a little bit hard for us to wrap our heads around sometimes, but the organization is going to get an overall better result. So what I mean by that is, I think that for a lot of us achievers, our answer to these situations where someone might need to have one of those tough conversations, but we don't want to do it, we just take on all that work ourselves. I can remember one very clear example of this in college where we were supposed to be writing a business paper. And it was a group of 4. Every one of us had our own section of the paper that we were supposed to write. And one of the guys, I don't recall his name now, but one of the guys was responsible for the introduction, which is so important because it sets the tone for the whole paper. He was responsible for that. He did not take his time. He wrote it probably the morning it was due and just sort of slapped it together and sent it out to all of us. Well, we didn't have class until 6 o'clock that night. And so what did I do? I rewrote the intro and I sent it to him and I said, I think this better reflects what's in the rest of the paper. Don't you? And he said, sure. And so he put his name on it and we submitted the paper that way. We got a great grade, but the fact that we didn't all put our expertise together means that that paper was only as good as I could make it. And I am not naive to think that I have the best ideas or that I am going to have the best end result. So when we can help everybody be at their best and help everybody bring what they need to the table or what they should be bringing to the table, we get a better result overall. And to just kind of bring that a little bit more into focus, if we think about, the university as the business that we're working in, if I was taking my time to rewrite the portion of the paper that Johnny or whatever his name was supposed to be writing, that means I wasn't working on other aspects of my group projects, my extracurriculars, my work positions that I had within the university. I wasn't working on any of those because I was rewriting Johnny's work. And so all of these other areas were suffering was because at 10 a.m. he submitted terrible work and I worked on it from 10 to 5:30 to get it in by 6. And so I missed a whole day's worth of opportunity to build on something else. And that's true when you're working within an organization too. When you're the high achiever who just brings everything on yourself because you don't want to have those confrontational conversations, then you're doing a disservice to everywhere else where you're supposed to be giving your time and talent. So, not only is that not good for you and your boundaries and your skill set and all of those things, it's also just not good for the organization. All right, so let's recap these. So, for you, what is important to you for you to win by having these tough conversations? It puts you in the driver's seat. It makes it so much more likely that you will get what you want and you get to practice the skills and improve yourself so that you are developing into the leader that you want to be. Now, stepping outside of ourselves, why do we do this for other people? Why do we take on these tough conversations as a benefit for other people? First and foremost, it makes that other person that you're having the tough conversation with more self aware. It allows them to be easier to work with in the future. So the team down the road is going to be better for it. And it gives the organization as a whole a better result. All right, so 6 reasons. Go out, implement, have those tough conversations. But before you do, make sure you read the blog so that you are doing them the right way. So you're actually seeing these benefits when you go ahead and have those conversations. All right, I hope you learned something from this conversation. If you did, please give it a like and share it with a friend so that we can continue to spread this development with everyone. All right, have a great day.